I had had some digestive issues and some other things, and I went to a naturopath initially. I didn't really want to go to a regular doctor, and they said it was, just the typical things. It was dairy, gluten, all of these other things that if I just took them out of my life, everything would be so much better. So I had one of those blood tests, and they said that I was semi-allergic to all kinds of different things. I shouldn't eat almonds anymore and follow a paleo diet and do all of that. So I followed the paleo diet and did all this research online and got rid of all of my cooking pans that had nonstick. I got rid of all the plastic because then there was estrogens in the plastic, and maybe that's what was, causing my skin issues and all kinds of different things. And so this was in 2015, and then one day I got out of the shower and my hair was falling out in like big clumps, and I thought it was my shampoo. And then it was guacamole after that. I ate guacamole the day before, and then I ate it the next day and my face swelled up. And so I went back to the doctor, and she decided to try to go over more things. Maybe I was allergic to even more things on all of the prior blood work that they did, and they keep eliminating more and more things. And I don't know why, but I'm having all of these reactions to everything. So eventually she kind of passes me along and says she doesn't really understand what the cause is. So they sent me to the Mayo Clinic, did some tests. I had a double bone marrow biopsy, and they came back and told me that I had something called mast cell activation syndrome. And of course, once it had a name, I went wild. The type A, figure it out type personality that I was, Googling everything and trying to learn as much as I could about it. And I remember sitting there with the doctor and him telling me that it was permanent and it wasn't going to get any better. And I remember asking, and I said, so you're telling me this is like a light switch, and my whole life the switch has been turned off, and one day it's been turned on and you can't turn it back off? And he said, no, it's forever. And I just remember in my mind saying, bullshit. If the light switch was off my whole life, why can't it go back off again? And as soon as I got diagnosed, it really spiraled from there. It was all kinds of foods, and every time I would react to a new food, they would remove it from my diet until there came a point where there wasn't anything that I could eat anymore. And I ended up on elemental formula for like 3 to 5 weeks at a time, just to give my immune system and my body a rest from trying to fight all the foods that I was taking in. And I lost a very significant amount of weight because I couldn't eat any food. But I believed the whole time that this was just impossible. If this was the switch that got turned on and I could turn it back off. And I was really stubborn and I didn't want to believe it. So I kept searching for all kinds of different cures outside of me. I flew to New York to see a special Chinese medicine doctor. I did all of these different things. I had a bag of EpiPens, of mast cell stabilizers, and I would eat the things that I wasn't supposed to eat. And basically I was trying to force it. So in 2017, I had, it was just a very stressful time, and everything kind of collapsed. I lost 2 of the people closest to me and my dog, all within a short period of time, and I spiraled. And that was kind of what put me over the edge to do something different. And in one of my support groups, there was a woman who said you should look into limbic system dysfunction and look into that. And there was a program, and one of the books on the reading list was Are the Placebo. And I was going through this other program and thinking, okay, this makes a lot of sense. And I read You Are the Placebo, and I said, I did it to myself. I did this exactly to myself. I stressed myself out so bad. I was looking for all of these answers. I went to this doctor. They told me all of these things in my environment are bad for me. And then I turned absolutely everything around me into an enemy. I turned my shampoo, my face wash, my conditioner, all the foods, the containers in my house, the pans, everything into the enemy. And I was just constantly driven by fear, and I was trying to control everything, and it spiraled out of control. And I read You Are the Placebo, and I thought, well, shoot, that makes a lot of sense. And so that was in 2017. And I started doing the meditations, but I didn't really learn my lesson well enough because I was this person and I didn't have this illness anymore in my meditation. But when I went out of my meditation, I was the same person. And I didn't really understand that part. 2019 rolled around and I really wanted to get into the Portland advanced retreat, and it was sold out. And I said, you know what, I really can't wait any longer. I was in this huge transition in my life where I stopped and I was meditating all the time and having these great meditations, but my environment was so stressful. I wasn't in a good situation at home, and I decided to get a divorce. I decided to basically get rid of my entire life as I knew it, and I knew that I had to fundamentally change. And I had watched all different videos of Dr. Joe on YouTube, but I bought the intensive and progressive when I didn't get into the retreat. And when I watched that, it was like he had shown me a mirror of my true self for the very first time. You know, always thought I was very aware of the kind of person I was. I knew I had control issues. I was type A. I was always pushing and climbing, and I hated surprises. You know, I always wanted an agenda. I hated the idea of the unknown. It terrified me. And so I watched that, and everything he said, I was like, ooh, oh, that's me. Oh, that's me too. Oh yeah, I do that. Ooh, I still do that. It's funny, I've read all of his books and I do all the meditations, but I am all of these things. And it was, that was the change moment for me. That's what really did it. So I had that realization that you can't just read his books, and everything that I read made sense, right? I understood fundamentally how I had gotten myself sick. And I knew I would be better someday. I just didn't realize that I had to let it all go. I had to completely change and become a new person if I wanted to heal, because the person that was sick was the old me, and I needed to not know that person anymore. I get into the Malta week-long advanced retreat, and I thought that I really had things figured out before Malta, and I got there and it was really incredible. I just had to start over and change. And when I went to Malta, I was still so new and I was still focused on my healing. I kept trying to balance my energy centers, and I was always trying to think, okay, which energy center caused my illness? Or where would that rest, and how can I focus my attention there? And I was always focused on meditating for healing instead of just meditating. And the coherence healing really took me back. It was like my chest cracked open, feeling the love in the room. And I had my healing, and it was really incredible. I couldn't feel my body after. Somebody was nice enough to put me in my room afterwards. And I had also had a mystical experience there, and it was funny that Dr. Joe was joking about somebody got freaked out where they thought they died in a meditation. That happened to me. I thought I died. I know we're supposed to be in the black void, but everything was white, and everybody that I had recently lost was there in energy form. And when I woke up, I let it all out. I was sobbing uncontrollably, and somehow I knew that they were all there and they were all around me, and I was able to let go of that grief. And then I went home, and it was sometime in the beginning of this year, I think, that everything changed. I learned to let go more and more. Everything just clicked for me. I did the blessing of the energy centers meditations again, and everything was aligned. I didn't have to force it. I didn't have to think them into the right spot. They were just there. And I had been on a medication for a few years to help control my immune system. And I went home, and I know Dr. Joe says you kind of just, eventually you grow out of your medication. I wasn't really ready to let go of it, but I went and I got another month's worth of injections, and then the beginning of the year started, and even as the current times we're in started taking place, I felt so much more in line. I was internalizing everything that I learned in Malta, and I just decided not to go back for my medication anymore, and that was 10 months ago, and I am completely free. I eat what I want, I do what I want, I don't carry any medication with me, I have no symptoms, and I'm like the healthiest I've ever been. I just closed the book on that, and it's strange, it really is. Like, I read it in a book and it didn't actually happen to me. It's like a distant memory of someone else's story. But I guess I would say to anybody who is doing this, I remember watching videos and people would have the one meditation pop, and almost watching it and thinking like, well, if that didn't happen to me, maybe that's not, maybe it's just I'm not going to be the one to heal. I knew I would be, but there was always that doubt, and it wasn't pretty, and I failed, and I had to restart and stop a bunch of times. I would meditate, and I would go back into my environment and be the same person, and I would fall off the wagon and come back. So it doesn't always look linear or pretty, but you just have to stick with it.